think they'll do the capacity limits. Yeah. other wonderful news.
Well, good morning to everybody. Good morning. It's wonderful to be in Osceola County.
Yes!
And especially to be hosted here at Nacion de Fe. I want to thank Raphael and Clarabelle. Thank you for hosting us. And you all please take a seat. We've got a nice program here today. We are joined by a lot of folks today. We have the President of the Florida Senate with us today, Wilton Simpson, the Speaker of the Florida House, Chris Sprowls, the Secretary for the Agency of Healthcare Administration, Simone Marstiller. We have Senator Kelly Stargel, Representative Aaron Brawl, Representatives Persons Malika, Tomko, and Burton, Senators Bradley and Mayfield, and then Representatives Bell, Toledo, Trabulsi, Tuck, Federhoff, Byrd, Beltran, Barnaby, Harding, and then Senators Baxley and Burgess. So I want to thank all of you. We are also joined by pro-life advocates, Heather Barwick, Terry Kellogg, Hope Kellogg, and Kelly Terrian. So I want to thank them, and you're going to hear from them when we inaugurate. We are here today to protect life. We are here today to defend those who can't defend themselves. And in just a minute, I will be signing House Bill 5, which protects the rights of unborn children starting at 15 weeks. This is a time where these babies have beating hearts. They can move, they can taste, they can see, they can feel pain, they can suck their thumbs, and they have brain waves. And so this will represent the most significant protections for life that have been enacted in this state in a generation. And if you look what's going on in certain segments of our society, particularly amongst people who are affiliated with the far left of our political spectrum, of course that's overrepresented in places like Hollywood, in the media, and obviously in one of our major political parties. But they are now taking the position that babies can be aborted up to the 9th month. Literally, you can go back for you parents, and those are some of the most significant experiences of my life, to hold your child for the very first time. What they would say is, parent holding that child, if you just go back a day or two, then you would have been able to snuff the child out entirely. That is just fundamentally wrong. That is infanticide. That has no place. And you see how that type of mindset has led to things that really shock the conscience in our society. We just saw this terrible scandal in Washington, D.C.
Oh, yeah.
Where is Mary Margaret here from the Daily Wire? There's Mary Margaret. She did this great expose. They found all these remains of babies, and they found 5 who were basically infants, premature they would have been, but they would have been able to survive, outside the womb. And yet Washington, D.C. Is treating that just like we would treat the trash from our lunch or something like that. It's really horrifying to see that could go on in our country, but particularly in our nation's capital. And so that is callous, that is wrong, and I want to thank her and Daily Wire for exposing that. And so what we're doing today is saying that we will not let that happen in the state of Florida. As I said, the bill today will provide protections for unborn children from abortion when the child reaches 15 weeks of gestational age. Of course, these are babies that have heartbeats and that can feel pain and can move, as we said. The bill also expands fetal infant mortality review committees across the state, which engage medical professionals and communities to review infant mortality cases and recommends reduction efforts tailored to their communities. Nearly half of Florida's counties are currently not represented within a review committee, and data shows that mortality rates are higher in these areas. So this bill appropriates funds for up to 11 more of these fetal infant mortality review committees to cover the entire state. HB 5 also requires hospitals with laboring delivery services to participate in Florida prenatal quality collaborative initiatives, which range from opioid recovery programs to reducing cesarean overuse in deliveries. This requirement will move Florida to a statewide standard for quality birthing services and evidence-based interventions around issues like opioid abuse that cause higher rates of infant mortality. So we are viewing this in terms of protecting life as something that we see through. Really, if you look at what we've done this week, we're promoting fatherhood in Florida. Kids to have dads in the home. We want the fathers present. Take responsibility. So the most important thing you can do is to take responsibility for the upbringing of your kids. And if you look, then probably one of the worst social trends we have. You go back to like the mid-1950s. You didn't have very many broken families. Now, it has increased dramatically, and it is in every racial or ethnic group. There's some more acute than others, but it has increased across the board. So this is a society-wide problem. And, I think back to prior to us having kids, my wife and I, and when we were married, we had a lot of fun. When you don't have kids, you can just kind of do what you want. You want to go to dinner? Just do it. You want to get in the car, go somewhere on the weekend? Do it. Whatever you want, you can probably figure out a way to do it without necessarily. Well, when you have the kids, man, that changes things because now you have responsibilities. And it's not easy. There's a lot of challenges with being a parent. But I can tell you, that responsibility is something that I would not trade for the world. We have 3, 5, and under, and when we signed the fatherhood bill on Monday, which was really great work by Speaker Sprowls leading the effort, I had my 5-year-old man. She's an old pro at this. She's come to a lot of stuff with me. But my 2-year-old baby, it was her debut of being able to go to work with daddy. And so she did. So, but so we have 3, and people will tell me like, oh man, I see you all around the state. You're working hard. You got to go home and get some rest. And I just want to let people know, when I'm at home, I am not resting. It's just the way it is. But what you do by being present, particularly, these dads who really need to be in their kids' life, you are providing that role model for these kids to be able to grow up and lead meaningful lives. And the statistics are overwhelming. When kids grow up without a dad in the home, the chances of them dropping out of school, getting in trouble with the law, drugs, you name it, that increases dramatically. And so we're really proud to be leading on fatherhood. These dads who really need to be in their kids' life, you are providing that role model for these kids to be able to grow up and lead meaningful lives. And the statistics are overwhelming. When kids grow up without a dad in the home, the chances of them dropping out of school, getting in trouble with the law, drugs, you name it, that increases dramatically. And so we're really proud to be leading on fatherhood.
One second. We've had some storms come through Florida. Came through the South last night. Prayers for all those in Mississippi. I'm sure it's something that they'll probably have figured out here fairly shortly. I don't think it has anything to do with the topic. It's just one of those things that occasionally you have to run into. But on this topic, I know there's a lot of DJT fans out there, but the last president, the prior one, he never spoke about... Okay, here we go.
So we're going to hear from some folks involved in crafting the legislation, also from some of our pro-life advocates. And so I want to first bring up our Senate President, Wilton Simpson.
Thank you, Governor. I love to hear about the governor's children. I've heard that story a couple times now. And if you get to live to be old enough, then you have grandchildren. And the real fun begins. This has been a transformative week. Our governor has signed into law 3 bills that will change lives and save lives in this state.
Amen.
How about that? We have a duty to protect life. Abortion kills children and forever changes the life of mothers, the father, and the entire extended family. Every unborn child is a special and unique human being, deserving of protection from harm and the chance to grow up in a loving family. As an adopted child, I am proud to live in a state that not only protects innocent unborn life, but also supports children and gives parents the tools they need to choose life for their babies. Earlier this week, we saw the governor sign into law the Historic Fatherhood Initiative. Meaningful relationships with adults who set a good example, whether a birth parent, adoptive parent, or foster parent, we can have a lifetime of impact. I commend Speaker Sprouse for his dedication to ensuring every Florida child has the opportunity to have a positive role model in their lives. Thank you, Speaker. Also, our governor signed into law increased benefits for foster families and caregivers that are not relatives this week. When I was growing up, we also had foster children in our home, so it's something that was near and dear to my heart as we move through this legislation. Improving the level of benefits for family members and foster parents could mean all the difference when these folks are considering whether they can take in a vulnerable child. The earlier in life we can give children a safe, permanent home, the better opportunities those children will have for the rest of their lives. Government is a horrible parent. But we can and continue to make foster children a priority by identifying and supporting caring families for them. Governor Desantis, our First Lady, Speaker Sprouse, Senator Sturgill was our hero on this bill in the Senate yesterday. And other amazing leaders in this effort. I am tremendously grateful for their support of this pro-life policy reforms that children and young adults in this state. Thank you, Governor. Thank you.
House Speaker Chris Sprouse.
Thank you, Governor. What a day, what a week. Every child has the right to life. Like many of you, I believe that life is a gift from God. And as I look out into this audience, I see many familiar faces who have been warriors on the front lines of the life movement, whether it is ministry, whether it is ministering to young women, whether it is helping them as they give birth to their child in pregnancy centers across the state. You have been a part of this as much as every single legislator here, and for that we are very grateful. We are blessed to be Floridians because behind me stands the most pro-life governor in America. And if it was just today, and the signing of this bill, that would be enough. But it's not enough for this governor, it's not enough for this legislature, because just this week, this governor and this legislature not only championed the right to life, that every child has the right to be born, but that they have the right to be born into a family that loves them. This is a governor and a legislature that fights for fathers to be present in the lives of their children. This is a governor and a legislature who understands that not every child is going to have the opportunity to be raised by their mother or their father, which is why he signed Senate President Simpson's vision about adoption and foster care to make sure that we're lifting up people who can serve as mothers and fathers to the children, to the forgotten and the downtrodden among us. And over these past 2 years, whether it was last year in this legislature, folks like Chair Burton, who's here with us today, leading on maternal health care to make sure that women who give birth to children, making sure that they have health care for up to a year to make sure that their babies get to be healthy. I want to thank Representatives Grawl, Senator Sturgill, Representative Burton, Representative Maleka. You know, in every legislature, in every bill, whether it's fatherlessness or adoption or foster care, you need warriors to lead the fight, and these women have been the tip of the spear. And know my sister is watching. She couldn't come today, but she runs a program in Pasco County for pregnant teens, helping new mothers understand what it's like to be a parent, to fight for their children. And what we are doing here today, what the governor is about to do, is the legacy of each one of your fights.
Okay, so once again, it's just an issue with storms, nothing more nefarious than that. But just to follow up on what's being spoken of, Florida is clearly distinguishing itself in a way that even the founding fathers of this country didn't do. There were many decades running up to the revolution where people were talking about maybe we should govern ourselves, but there was never a discussion about the virtue of kings and queens. Virtually everybody at that time had kings of France, Spain. It was the only type of governance that was known. And when the colonists decided, we're going to try to govern ourselves. Oh, here we go. Here we go.
My story was an unexpected pregnancy. As the song says, there is no pregnancy that's unplanned. God had a plan for every single child that He allowed to be conceived. And what we as a society need to do is surround those families and surround those children and make sure that every one of those children gets to meet their maximum potential. My daughter, who was the unplanned, served in the military and took out terrorists. Can you imagine what things would have been like had she not been born? It's an amazing day. I can't thank all of you enough for your sticking through and the advocacy. And again, I can't thank the leaders that we have with President Simpson and Speaker Sprowls and our governor to make sure that this day came to fruition. Thank you all very much.
From the House, Representative Aaron Brawl.
Thank you to all of you for your advocacy, for your prayers, for the support that you give to pregnant women, to families. I too look out and see a lot of friendly faces. People that I know have prayed for me, have prayed for our legislators because you've told me, and I feel those prayers. But people that I know are praying every day to end the horrific abortions that plague our country. What you do saves lives. We all know that once a woman becomes pregnant, two uniquely independent human beings exist.
Yeah.
Life remains a life, whether planned or unplanned. Life remains a life, whether wanted or unwanted. Life remains a life, whether in the womb or outside the womb. The consequences of abortion are devastating. We all know that firsthand, not only for the child whose life is being terminated, but for our society that becomes increasingly numb to the intrinsic value of human life. Abortion sanctions the killing of a child if a parent deems that child to be inconvenient. The message this sends to our children is reprehensible, and it's unacceptable. The reality of the Roe decision is that men on the Supreme Court proclaimed that women, in order to achieve equality with men, must be able to kill their own children. As a woman, I refuse to accept such a perverse version of equality. More than 60 million American children have been exterminated through the atrocity of abortion since 1973. And sadly, we will never know the contributions of those sweet children to our communities. Further, the barbaric act of late-term abortion subtracts from our humanity. And this law will end such evil practices. I'm proud to live in the great state of Florida, where we all stand up for children and families, where we value the dignity of all human life, without a commitment to all life, nothing else that we do matters. The consequence of Roe versus Wade is that everyone in this room does love someone who has had an abortion or who has been touched by an abortion. But that doesn't mean we have to support abortion as an alternative to life. It means that we need to love each other and support each other as we seek to end this horrific chapter in our country's history. Thank you to my family for their courage and support in the face of evil and hatred. For us, it makes it clear that this fight is the right fight and the just fight. And I want to thank my colleagues for their courageous stand on this fundamental issue. Thank you to Chair Burton and Representative Person Smolka for their leadership in the House. Thank you to Senator Stargel for being an incredible Senate partner and mentor on critical pro-life policies. She has led the fight for our most vulnerable, and her contributions to this state are profound. Thank you to President Simpson and Speaker Sprowls for your leadership, for your steadfast dedication to the unborn and to our families. And finally, we are grateful to live in a state where our governor's commitment to the sanctity of all human life is unwavering. And for that, we are so grateful. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to hear from some advocates. So I have Heather Barwick to start.
My name is Heather Barwick. I am the sister who Representative Brawl has mentioned during past committee and floor discussions related to abortion. I am the person who she loves who has had an abortion. And let me tell you, she sure does get beat up on Twitter for sharing my story, but I want her to share it. I want her to share it because I want women and men who have been impacted by abortion to know that healing is possible. I held on to my painful secret for 20 years. That decision that I made when I was 21 years old shaped my life in ways that I'm still uncovering. There are several things that led me to be honest about my past. The first is Erin's time in Tallahassee. I have watched her committee meetings, and there are two types of people that have led me to speak up. The women who say that abortion does not cause mental distress, and the women in their 70s who had abortions and testify that just now they're able to speak about them and the regret they have felt for over 40 years. I was also able to open up because of my time praying outside of our local abortion clinic with 40 Days for Life. Standing on that sidewalk, I knew that I had to be able to reach out to women seeking abortions and let them know that I had been in their shoes. To let them know that they were going to be forever changed whether they had their baby or not. I also knew that I had to be honest for my daughter, my 6-year-old daughter, and my 19 nieces and nephews. I made a mistake that I cannot change, but I can let others learn from my mistake And when the time is right, I will talk to my daughter about it. And I will also talk to all of her cousins when their parents are ready for that too, about my experience. I've only been able to speak publicly about my abortion over the past 2 years, which has finally allowed healing to begin. I am continuing to seek out ways to heal and discovering that I have a long way to go. I've been fortunate to find incredibly strong women and men who have experienced the ills of abortion to guide me and give me hope. Those praying with me on the sidewalks, those at my Rachel's Vineyard retreat, and those in my church. I have also been fortunate to be a sounding board for so many, too many, of my friends and the people in my community who have shared their abortion stories with me, but they're still holding on to their stories, and their secrets. Honesty has been liberating, and I wish more people felt that they could talk openly about their pasts. As sinful as it might feel to them, they certainly deserve peace. The bill that the governor is signing today, this bill will save babies. Yes. This bill will save mothers and fathers from the lifetime of pain and regret that I have suffered, and for that I am so grateful. But this bill will not save all babies, which means there will continue to be women and men anguishing from abortion. And I hope that hearing my testimony today gives them courage and comfort. Comfort to know that they can experience healing and that they are not alone. There are a vast amount of resources available to women and men who have been affected by abortion. Please seek those out and free yourself. Please talk freely about the devastation of abortion so we can one day stop talking about abortion.
Okay, Terry and Hope Kellogg.
And this is Hope. I want to tell you a little bit about how my daughter's life started. When Hope is an abortion survivor. When she was 10 and a half weeks gestation, that's the first trimester, her birth mother went and had an abortion at an abortion facility. And she left that day believing that she had had the abortion. And then, but God had spared her life, and she continued to grow in secret until she was 5.5 months, and then she felt movement, her birth mother felt movement, and then decided to choose life. And at that point, she chose adoption, and didn't know anything was wrong with her baby until she delivered 2 months early. Hope weighed 3 pounds, 6 ounces. She was delivered at 32 weeks. And she had a large injury to her forehead, back to her right ear, from the 10-week abortion, failed abortion, where the skull and the scalp had been cut and it was jagged, and her brain was exposed, and there was extra skin pushed down on one side, and that's when it came to light what had happened at the failed abortion from the instrument that was used. And Hope had many complications when she was born. That God brought her through. That was 30 years ago. She survived. And then we came into the... She's a fighter. She's been fighting since the 10.5-week abortion, and until even the first month of her life that she was fighting. She has cerebral palsy as a result, and she still has this scar on her head. And we brought her home. We adopted her when she was 3 months old, when she was discharged from the hospital. And She's been a blessing. She's a blessing to everybody that knows her. She's a friend to all. She describes herself that way. She's an encourager. She's a peacemaker. Her life has great value. And we love her, and she loves talking. She would want to be talking right now. It would be off topic. So when I look at her and I see her scar, I'm reminded of how God spared her life. I'm reminded that she survived an abortion when there's 2,363 babies that don't survive it daily, and her scar is evidence of what's done in secret. And I'm thankful to have her as my daughter. I'm thankful to her birth mother for choosing life, and she was given a second chance. And I'm thankful. My heart is full to be here with all of you that have done so much to stand for life and be a voice for those that don't have a voice. And we're glad to be able to share our story too. And thank you for having us.
Okay, Kelly.
Hi, good morning. My name is Kelly Berry, and I don't have a speech. I'm just going to speak from the heart. I found out I was pregnant. I was 38 years old. Nobody wanted my daughter. Her father said, "It's not mine." Having her from over 4 years. My parents wanted nothing to do with the pregnancy. My mother even took me for the abortion. When I got there, I didn't do it. Instead, I got this ultrasound. I was 6 weeks, 6 days. I did everything by myself. I found out from J&J Pregnancy Center from my Healthy Start coach. I did all the classes by myself. I had nothing. I had nobody. You don't want to be out there begging. It's hard. But I did it. I was high risk because of my age. I did all the doctor's appointments by myself. I drove myself to the hospital to be induced for 3 days before having her. I drove myself home. My daughter's going to be 3.5 on the 17th. She's never met her father. My parents are in love with her. There are options out there. Abortion's not it. I'll be honest with you. I was pro-choice. But you know what? When you get in that spot, and it's you personally, it messes with your mind. And I'm against it now. I wouldn't have her. I wouldn't have her. You know, people will say, "Oh, well, it's a mistake. She was a mistake." No. She was a surprise. Okay? A mistake or an accident, no. A surprise is something you weren't wishing for or you weren't expecting. I was told I couldn't have kids. Here I am. I'm 42. I got a 3.5-year-old. knows what an octagon is. I don't even know what an octagon is. So she knows all her shapes, colors, everything by the time she was 2. I work with her so much. So she's in school right now. She was going to come, but she wanted to do her Easter party. So she's home alone right now. But thank you for signing us. Thank you for having me up here. I really thought I was going to need an oxygen tank. I was going to fall on the floor when I saw all of you. You guys are awesome.
And now in the unenviable task of following that, we have our wonderful Secretary of ACA, Simone Marsteller.
Indeed, there should not be a dry eye in the house right now. What an incredible story, what incredible strength, and I think I saw a sign out here that says courage. Yeah. And that's exactly what it takes for any woman, young, teenager, 20s, 30s, whatever, who finds herself at a crossroads and really has to make the toughest decision of her life, I would argue. I've been there. I was 19 years old. I had started college at 16, was on my way to graduating before my 21st birthday. Really, really enjoyed college, as you can imagine. Fell pregnant at 19 and went to a physician to confirm that. And I'm not even going to go into the detail, but suffice it to say that because of how I looked, right, certain assumptions were made, and I was handed a referral for abortion. I didn't get a conversation or counseling about prenatal care, none of that. Assumptions were made. And I think it's fair to say that almost on the strength of that, but I talked to my mother about it, and we decided no, not going to go that way. Kept my baby. And for those who are mothers in the room, I enjoy being pregnant. I enjoy getting stretch marks. I love it. Right? I don't like them too much now, but I like them then. And when that yelling, screaming baby was born, and they laid her on my chest, and she fell immediately silent, I knew that I had done the right thing. Not that I had any doubts, but I knew at that moment that I had done the right thing. Being a single mother has not been easy. It's been challenging, but I went back and I finished my college degree. I had to go on welfare to do it, but I did it. I went to law school. I lived on loans. I lost my house in foreclosure behind that, but it is what it is. You can survive that, right? And overcome it. And now, thanks to the good Lord above, I have the good fortune to be working for this man at this time, standing at this podium on this day. Right? And if the only purpose that I have on this earth was to have been the vessel for the child that came up through me to serve her purpose, then I am more than happy that that's my purpose in life. But one more thing, and I'll hand it back to the governor. I hope and I assume that there is at least somebody out there listening to my voice who will be encouraged by my story, by the story you just heard. Don't listen to the narrative that people are trying to push on you. You're young, you need to do this because your life will be ruined, blah, blah, blah. That is not the case. There are people on this stage who are here to tell you to not believe that narrative. Make a choice. Choose choose life, you'll be fine and all will be well. Thank you.
All right, well, now I'm going to go over to the chair here, and we're going to...
Everybody sit so everybody can see. Sit down, sit down. Sit down. Sit down, please. Sit down. Sit down. Like a chair. Sit down. Please sit so we can say come on. There you go. You're perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Down in front. Thank you. There you go. There we go.
There you go.
Can you please hold that up again? Could you please hold that up again? We do not get to see that? Yeah. Thank you, sir.
All these pictures get them?
Two more.
Okay. Back there. All right, good stuff, guys.
George, I was trying to call you about this. Good to see you.
There is a lot to unpack here. There really is. We've been doing these lives with the governor and his events across the state for over a year now. And ever since the beginning of 2020, there has been this schism. Literally from Jacksonville, all the way over to Pensacola, there has been a line of angels. And south of that line, what's gone on in Washington, D.C. has had no effect whatsoever. No matter what has been said, no matter what has been done, we have gone our own way. I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. The French and the Spanish, people in France, people in Spain, two different countries, they have a lot more in common than Floridians do with anybody else on the continent right now. We no longer see ourselves, and I'm sorry if it hurts feelings, we no longer see ourselves as part of the quote-unquote United States. Our governor talks about the country occasionally, but we don't take our lead from Washington, D.C. And when Washington, D.C. decides it's going to try to tell Florida what we are and aren't going to do, we do our own thing. We are doing our own thing right now. earlier when one of the technical difficulties occurred, I began a thought talking about the founding of this country and how Florida was not even part of it. Florida was not even part of the original 13 colonies. It was still its own thing. And originally, even prior to the founding fathers, when they came here to this country, they called it all of it was referred to as La Florida. Everything from what we know today to be Texas, Houston, New Orleans, Mobile, Panama City, all the way around the Keys, Savannah, Charleston, Myrtle Beach, all the way up the coast, it was referred to. And you can look this up if you think I'm making it up. It was referred to as La Florida. The original discovery of the New World was referred to as La Florida. And now we have come full circle. Florida is now still its own independent nation of 22 million people. Can you imagine any press conference from any leader from Washington, D.C.? Not in my lifetime have I heard so many references to God and to the Bible and about mercy and grace and forgiveness and biblical principle. You could watch one of these and forget that you're looking at a governmental press conference and think, wow, this is a pro-life event. This is a government event here in Florida. And I wish everybody who believed in these values could come here. I'll be very honest with you. If I had to walk, I would come here. There's a video that I've been working on for some time, and I've been debating whether I should or should not do it, but I think today I'm going to do it. Because there's something going on in social media, YouTube specifically, that shows an evidence of a hidden demonic influence starting to pervade those who would call themselves conservatives. And it's this fear mentality. It's a mentality we don't have here in Florida, so it's hard for us to wrap our mind around it. We're not afraid of Joe Biden. We're not afraid of Washington, D.C. We're not afraid of their threats. We're not afraid of the deep state. In fact, we look at them with derision. Have you ever walked by a yard on a sidewalk, and then all of a sudden you see a dog, you hear barking, you hear the most ferocious barking, and you stop for a minute, and here comes this dog, about 15 or 20 pounds, running out to the fence, just snarling and snapping and just raising all sorts of hell. You see, for a minute, you're a little apprehensive, but then when you look and see, oh, it's just this little dog. If it's a chain link fence, you reach down, you put your hand down and, let him sniff it for a minute. You see, that's how we see Washington, D.C. We're not afraid of him. We're going to continue walking down our sidewalk. And we're going to go where we're going to go. And even Biden realizes this. That the Constitution represents that chain link fence. They can run right up to it, and they can bark, and they can snap, and they can snarl, and they can make all sorts of intimidating gesture. But when it comes right down to it, they have no power. Now, let me, in that context, ask my audience a question. Why would Governor DeSantis hop over that chain link fence? Why would Governor DeSantis hop over that chain link fence and try to convince the dog to not bark? We're fine. We are absolutely spectacularly fine in Florida. And it's not our job to go fix the other 50 states, the other 49 states. It's not our job. Fix yourself. I can give you two great examples. I can give you two great real-world examples of this. Kentucky and Pennsylvania have both put up recently legislation. Now, they both have conservative majorities in their state houses of representatives and their state senates. They both recently put up legislation stating that the controversial idea of a man being a man and a woman being a woman should be seen in college sports. That if you were born a biological male, you cannot compete with biological females. And no AKAs, Insomniac, they're not going to get us with weather warfare. It's make-believe weather warfare. It's make-believe. Okay, so Pennsylvania passed the legislation, and Governor Wolf vetoed it. And they don't have enough conservatives to override the veto. Kentucky just did the same thing. But guess what? They had enough conservatives in their House and Senate to override their governor's veto. So Kentucky is fixing their problem. Pennsylvania is not. You see, here's the dirty little secret that nobody wants to talk about. Having Governor Desantis is a great blessing. It is a great blessing, but understand, Governor DeSantis is the compromise. He is the compromise. There are people in our government, on our Supreme Court, in our Senate, way more conservative, way more conservative than Governor DeSantis is. Way more. Meaning there are people waiting in the wings that would ban abortion entirely. We would find every single abortion doctor in this state and we would remove them. Anyone willing to perform one would be put either in a swamp or across our state lines. You see, the 15-week thing, that's the compromise. That is the compromise. And that's what a lot of people don't get about Florida. We are way more conservative than even Governor DeSantis is. But he's doing something incredibly smart by doing these events. Because now there's going to be a record. Now there's going to be a permanent record. And that's why I do these. I see exactly what he's doing. Of everything we've done, that is the will of the people. I mean, did you hear the excitement in that crowd? Even before he arrived, the standing ovations for what he's done. And then the stories. Don't even get me started on the stories that we just listened to. This is how you do it. This has been in the past the purview of the left, their ability to get in front of cameras and make their pitch. You see, they've needed Hollywood to do it. We don't need Hollywood to do it. We don't need Hollywood to do it. I'm sitting here in Palm Coast, Florida, and I'm doing exactly what Hollywood has done, just at a much lower tech level. But it still gets the point across. It still gets the point across. It's not as entertaining as a movie, But when it comes to topics like this, the last thing you want to be is entertaining. You see, they've waded out into politics, ankle deep, Hollywood. And they've used their little tricks and plans and all this crap, and they've tried to couch certain things incorrectly. But the more you use information technology, kids aren't stupid. I talked either a day or two ago about groomer proofing. Who remembers the live I did talking about this? Groomer proofing your kids. People said, oh, get rid of Disney, get rid of Disney. I'd be fine with that. But you know what I'm more for? I am more for people getting involved in their kids' life and groomer proofing them. Because I try to think back to when I was a kid. And when I was a kid, if somebody had told me that men could have babies, I would have literally not been able to stop laughing. I would have come home and told my parents about it. You're not going to believe what this moron tried to make us believe in school today, is what I would have led with my parents. This idiocy. Well, you see, the kids, they talk about kids being brainwashed because nobody is giving them an alternative. Nobody is giving them an alternative discussion. And it's, when you can do this, kids have a wonderful ability to create all sorts of magical make-believe nonsense in their heads because they're kids. But when they grow up and they become adults, they realize, there's just reality. And you can't get away from it. So if you give them the ability to, and say, look, it's okay for you to use common sense. It's okay for you to use common sense. Meaning it's pretty easy to figure out. If you take a bunch of kids, if you take 100 boys and 100 girls and you put them, and you just let them go, you put them on a desert island, guess what? They're going to figure out who the boys and girls are all by themselves. Let me say that again because I think it bears repeating. If you took 100 boys and 100 girls and you put them on a desert island somewhere and you gave them food and water and all that, they're going to figure out pretty quick who the boys and girls are. They don't need they don't need the internet to coach them on this. That's just been the case for history. And if you can allow your kids to think, but I don't want to get too far out of the beaten path here because the video that I'm going to do later today is something that's probably going to surprise a lot of you. What if I told you that YouTube is promoting videos that encourage people to go dig their own graves and bury themselves? Let me say that again. What if I told you YouTube is promoting videos that encourage people, primarily conservative people, to go out in the middle of the woods, dig their own graves, and bury themselves? Some of you probably know what I'm talking about. But I saw this start to show up in my feed 1 or 2 or 3 times. I'm like, why is this in my feed? I've never had any interest in this whatsoever. But one of these videos has 160 plus million views. That's right. Not 16 million views, not 1.6 million views. I think up now it's almost 170 million views. And what's the topic? Head out into the middle of nowhere, dig your own grave, and bury yourself. Seriously, that's exactly what they're doing. So that's what our video later on is going to be about. And they're using subtle psychological operations to teach you how to do it, to show you how it's, what's the term? Cozy, I think is the term. Cozy. So, and it's absolutely incredible. And here's the kicker. The vast majority of the videos have no speaking whatsoever. No speaking at all whatsoever. It's just people deciding to walk off into the forest with a shovel, dig a hole, create themselves a coffin of sorts, crawl inside it, and die. Hundreds of millions. Exactly right, it's demonic. It's exactly right, it's demonic. My channel, over the last 5 years plus, thousands and thousands and thousands of videos combined, has about 40 million total. There's a video that got put up, not even a year ago. In fact, I think it's less than 6 months. 167 million views. And the topic, go off in the forest and bury yourself in a self-made coffin. That's the topic. 4, almost 5 times as many views as I've gotten in 5 years this particular individual has gotten in 5 months. No singing, no dancing, no girls in bikinis, no nothing like that. It's absolutely mind control. Charlene Sampson nailed it. Psychological operations, mind control. So, anyway, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for supporting the governor. But one of those things that you can't do in Florida, by the way, is you can't go wander off into the forest and dig a hole big enough to create your own mausoleum because the water table's so high. So maybe that's why it's not working on folks in Florida. So I would encourage everyone to not be afraid of Washington, D.C., to not worry about Joe Biden, to not worry about anything they're doing, because if you act properly and you conduct your life properly, nothing he can do will affect it. So I'll leave it there. God bless. Everyone have a great day. Like, share, subscribe. Join us over at Patreon. A lot of good stuff over there too. Thank you for all the support here too. Very much appreciate it. We'll see you guys in a little bit.